On the last day that Enoch spent on this earth, the final hours before God reached down and pulled him out of a world that was too broken to keep him, he did not leave in silence. He gathered his children. He called Methuselah. He summoned his grandchildren, his brothers, every member of his bloodline that could be reached in time. And he stood before them and delivered a message that he said was not for them. It was for a generation so far in the future that he could not see their faces, could not know their names, could not imagine the world they would inhabit. But he knew they would need what he was about to say more than any generation before them. And then he gave them a manual, not a vision this time, not a dream, not a journey through the heavens or a tour of the places of the dead. A manual, a set of instructions. A letter addressed to the people he calls the chosen and righteous who must be present on the day of distress. 1 Enoch 1:1. That is the opening line of the entire book of Enoch, and it is addressed to you, not to the antediluvian world, not to ancient Israel, not to the first century church, to the chosen and righteous who must be present on the day of distress, the generation living in the time when everything goes wrong. That manual is called the Epistle of Enoch. It occupies chapters 91 through 108 of the book of Enoch. It contains the most direct, most practical, most personally applicable instructions in the entire Enochic corpus. It tells you how to live when the world is run by the wicked. It tells you what will happen to those who oppress the innocent. It tells you what God thinks about wealth gained through injustice. It tells you that every sin is being recorded in heaven in real time. And it tells you, with a specificity that will stop you cold, that the books you are reading right now, the very words of Enoch that you are hearing tonight, were predicted within the text itself as gifts that would be given to the righteous in the last days. The church removed this manual from your Bible, and tonight, Enoch is going to deliver it to you personally. The epistle opens with Enoch calling his family together for what he knows is a farewell. The Spirit is poured out upon me, he says in chapter 91, that I may show you everything that shall befall you forever. 1 Enoch 91:1. This is not a casual family meeting. This is a dying patriarch, or rather, a departing patriarch, since Enoch will not die, transferring the sum total of everything God has shown him to the next generation with the instruction to pass it forward until it reaches the people who need it most. And the first thing he tells them is this: love uprightness and walk therein, and draw not nigh to uprightness with a double heart, and associate not with those of a double heart, but walk in righteousness, my sons. And it shall guide you on good paths, and righteousness shall be your companion. 1 Enoch 91:3-4. Here is the first thing you were never told about Enoch's instructions. This passage, love uprightness, walk in righteousness, do not approach truth with a double heart, predates the Sermon on the Mount by centuries. And yet when you read it beside the words of Jesus, the resonance is so precise that it sounds like one is quoting the other. Jesus said in Matthew 6:24, no one can serve two masters. Enoch said, draw not nigh to uprightness with a double heart. Jesus said in Matthew 7:13-14, enter through the narrow gate, for the road that leads to life is narrow. Enoch said, righteousness shall guide you on good paths. The ethical framework is identical. The vocabulary is parallel. The audience is the same. People living in a world where walking in righteousness means walking against the current of a culture that has abandoned it. But Enoch does not stop at general moral instruction. He gets specific, devastatingly specific. And the specificity is what makes the epistle feel like it was written yesterday, not 3,000 years ago. In chapters 94 through 100, Enoch delivers a series of woe oracles, prophetic condemnations directed at specific categories of sinners. And the categories he names will make you look around at the world you live in and wonder how a man writing before the flood could describe it with such surgical accuracy. Woe to you who build your houses with the labor of others. Every stone and every brick of yours is sin. 1 Enoch 99:13. That is a condemnation of exploitative labor, of those who build their wealth on the backs of workers they do not pay fairly. 3,000 years before labor unions, before minimum wage laws, before any government on earth thought to protect the worker from the employer, Enoch identified the construction of personal wealth through the exploitation of other people's labor as sin. not as unfortunate, not as a market inefficiency, as sin, every stone and every brick. Now listen to the Apostle James, writing in the New Testament, chapter 5, verses 1 through 4. Come now, you rich people, weep and wail for the miseries that are coming to you. Your riches have rotted, and your clothes are moth-eaten. Your gold and silver have rusted, and their rust will be evidence against you. Listen, the wages of the laborers who mowed your fields, which you kept back by fraud, cry out, and the cries of the harvesters have reached the ears of the Lord of hosts. James is echoing Enoch, the wealthy who build their empires on unpaid labor, the wages that cry out, the rust of hoarded gold that becomes evidence at the judgment. James knew the epistle of Enoch. He was drawing from it. And the letter he wrote, the one that contains this condemnation of exploitative wealth, is in your New Testament. But the source he was drawing from was removed. Enoch continues, Woe to you who acquire gold and silver unjustly. You will say, We have become very rich, we have possessions, we have acquired everything that we wished. Let us now do what we planned, for we have gathered silver, our storehouses are full, and the tenants of our houses are as numerous as water. 1 Enoch 97:8-9. And then the devastating punchline. Your riches will not remain, but will quickly ascend from you, because you acquired everything unjustly, and you yourselves will be given over to a great curse. 1 Enoch 97:10. This is not abstract theology. This is economic prophecy. Enoch is describing a class of people who have accumulated enormous wealth through unjust means, fraud, exploitation, manipulation, and who believe their wealth makes them secure. They look at their full storehouses and their numerous tenants, and they say, Let us now do what we planned. They think they have won. And Enoch tells them, Your riches will not remain. They will ascend from you. They will evaporate, and you will be left with nothing but the curse you earned acquiring them. Now listen to Jesus telling the parable of the rich fool in Luke 12 verses 16-20. A rich man's land produced plentifully, and he said to himself, I will tear down my barns and build larger ones, and there I will store all my grain and my goods. And I will say to my soul, Soul, you have ample goods laid up for many years. Relax, eat, drink, be merry. But God said to him, Fool, this night your soul is required of you, and the things you have prepared, whose will they be? The narrative structure is identical. A wealthy person accumulates. They survey their abundance with satisfaction. They plan to enjoy it. And then the divine verdict interrupts. Everything you acquired will be taken, and you will stand before the judgment with nothing. Enoch said it first. Jesus told the same story centuries later. And the audience that heard Jesus would have recognized the echo immediately, because they had grown up reading the Epistle of Enoch. But the epistle is not only about condemnation of the wicked. It is equally, perhaps even more powerfully, about assurance for the righteous. And this is the part that the institutional church's removal made most cruel. Because the people who most needed to hear these words were the people who were suffering. In chapters 102 through 104, Enoch addresses a specific theological crisis that was apparently tearing his community apart. The righteous were dying. They were being oppressed, persecuted, and killed. And the sinners, the wealthy, the powerful, the well-connected, were thriving. And the question that rose from the community of the faithful was the question that has haunted every generation of believers in every century since. If God is just, why do the wicked prosper while the righteous suffer? Enoch's answer is unflinching. Do not fear, you righteous, when you see the sinners growing strong and prospering in their desires. Do not be their companions, but keep far from their violence. For you shall be companions of the hosts of heaven. 1 Enoch 1:04:6. And then he adds something extraordinary, a promise that has no parallel in the Old Testament and that anticipates the New Testament by centuries. The names of the righteous are written before the glory of the Great One. Your goodness shall not be hidden. Be hopeful, for formerly you were put to shame through illness and affliction, but now you shall shine as the lights of heaven. You shall shine and be seen, and the gates of heaven shall be opened to you. 1 Enoch 1:04:1-2. You shall shine as the lights of heaven. The gates of heaven shall be opened to you. This is resurrection language. This is glorification language. This is the same language Paul uses in 1 Corinthians 15 verses 42 to 43. The body is sown in dishonor, it is raised in glory. It is sown in weakness, it is raised in power. And it is the same language Jesus uses in Matthew 13 verse 43. Then the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. Enoch told the suffering righteous that their affliction was temporary, that their names were written in heaven, and that they would shine like the stars forever. Jesus said the same thing. Paul said the same thing. The theology is identical. The comfort is identical. The promise is identical. But Enoch said it first, and his words were removed from the hands of the very people who needed them most. Now here is where the epistle takes its most remarkable turn. Because in chapter 104, Enoch does something that no other ancient text does. He predicts the fate of his own book. And now I know this mystery, that sinners will alter and pervert the words of righteousness in many ways, and will speak wicked words, and lie, and practice great deceits, and write books concerning their words. But when they write down truthfully all my words in their languages, and do not change or diminish anything from my words, but write them all down truthfully, all that I first testified concerning them, then I know another mystery, that books will be given to the righteous and the wise to become a cause of joy and uprightness and much wisdom. And to them shall the books be given, and they shall believe in them and rejoice over them. 1 Enoch 1:04:10-13. Read that again slowly. Because what Enoch just said is one of the most self-aware prophetic statements in all of ancient literature. He says that sinners will alter and pervert his words, that people will change what he wrote, rewrite it, corrupt it, use it for their own purposes. And he says that some will write books concerning their words, texts that claim to represent truth but are built on lies and deceits. This is a prediction of textual corruption, of exactly what happened to the book of Enoch when it was gradually marginalized, edited, and ultimately removed from the canon by people who decided they knew better than the man who walked with God. But then he says something else. He says that when his words are written down truthfully, without change, without diminishment, in the languages of the distant generation, then those books will be given to the righteous and the wise. And they will become a cause of joy and uprightness and much wisdom. And the righteous will believe in them and rejoice over them. Enoch predicted that his book would be corrupted. He predicted that it would be suppressed. And he predicted that it would be restored, that the truthful version would find its way to the righteous in the distant generation. And when it did, they would believe it. They would rejoice, and it would give them wisdom. That prediction has been fulfilled. The book of Enoch was suppressed for over 1,000 years. It was rediscovered in Ethiopia in 1773. It was confirmed by the Dead Sea Scrolls in 1947, and it is now available in every major language on earth. The books have been given to the righteous. The question is whether you will be among those who believe in them and rejoice. But before we reach the commission, there is one more dimension of the epistle that you were never told about, and it might be the most unsettling of all. Because Enoch does not merely warn the wicked that judgment is coming. He tells them that judgment is already happening. Right now, in real time, while they think no one is watching. In chapter 98, Enoch reveals something that sounds like it belongs in a science fiction film, not in a text written before the flood. Do not think in your spirit, nor say in your heart that you do not know or do not see that every sin is recorded every day in heaven in the presence of the Most High. From now on, know that all your oppression with which you oppress is written down every day until the day of your judgment. 1 Enoch 98:6-8. Every sin is recorded every day in heaven. Not some sins, not the big ones. Every sin, every act of oppression, every lie, every exploitation, every cruelty, written down, logged, archived, in the presence of the Most High, in real time. This is not a vague metaphor about God knowing everything. This is a specific claim about a celestial recording system, a heavenly archive that documents every human action with the precision of a court transcript. And it is being maintained for one purpose, the day of your judgment. Now listen to what Jesus says in Matthew 12, verse 36. I tell you, on the day of judgment people will give account for every careless word they speak. not every wicked word, every careless word. The standard of accountability that Jesus describes is the same standard that Enoch described: total, comprehensive, continuous recording of every human action and utterance, stored for review at the final judgment. And listen to what the book of Revelation says in chapter 20, verse 12. And I saw the dead, great and small, standing before the throne, and books were opened. Then another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged by what was written in the books, according to what they had done. Books were opened. The dead were judged by what was written in the books. Revelation describes the same heavenly archive that Enoch described. The same books, the same recording system, the same comprehensive log of human actions opened at the same judgment. Enoch described the archive being filled. Revelation describes it being opened. The beginning and the end of the same process. And both texts were removed from proximity to each other by the institutional decision to exclude Enoch from the canon. There is another section of the woe oracles that strikes with particular force when you hear it in the context of the 21st century. In chapter 99, Enoch pronounces judgment not only on those who exploit the poor, but on those who lead people away from truth through false religion. Woe to you fools, for through your folly you shall perish. You listen not to the wise, and you shall not receive good things. And now know that you are prepared for the day of destruction. Do not hope to live, you sinners, you who depart and transgress the eternal law. 1 Enoch 98:9-10. And then, with a specificity that would be remarkable in any era, Enoch describes a particular kind of religious corruption. Woe to you who pervert the words of righteousness. You will have no part in righteousness. You sin against and speak lies against the eternal order, and you are not founded upon righteousness. 1 Enoch 99:2. Woe to you who pervert the words of righteousness. This is a condemnation not of atheists, but of religious leaders, people who take the words of truth and twist them, who claim to speak for God, but who reshape his message to serve their own power, their own comfort, their own institutional control. The Hebrew word for this kind of corruption, applying religious language to serve human agendas, would later be called by Jesus hypocrisy. And the woes Enoch pronounces against these religious corruptors sound almost identical to the woes Jesus pronounces against the Pharisees in Matthew chapter 23. Compare them. Enoch says, "Woe to you who pervert the words of righteousness." Jesus says, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you shut the kingdom of heaven in people's faces. For you neither enter yourselves, nor allow those who would enter to go in." Matthew 23 verse 13. Enoch says, "You will have no part in righteousness." Jesus says, "You are like whitewashed tombs, which outwardly appear beautiful, but within are full of dead people's bones and all uncleanness." Matthew 23 verse 27. The literary form is the same. The woe oracle, a prophetic condemnation beginning with the word woe and followed by a specific accusation. The target is the same: religious authorities who corrupt the message they were supposed to protect. The tone is the same: white-hot moral indignation from someone who has the authority to pronounce cosmic judgment. Jesus did not invent the woe oracle. He inherited it from a prophetic tradition that began with Enoch. And the specific category of sin he targeted most aggressively, religious hypocrisy, the perversion of righteous words by those entrusted with them, is the same category that Enoch targeted in his epistle centuries earlier. And here is the irony that cuts the deepest. The institution that eventually removed the book of Enoch from the canon, the institution that decided the faithful did not need these words, is precisely the kind of institution that Enoch's woe oracles were written to warn about. An institution that takes the words of righteousness and perverts them, not through malice necessarily, but through the gradual prioritization of control over truth, of institutional preservation over prophetic faithfulness. The very act of removing Enoch's condemnation of religious corruption is itself an example of the religious corruption that Enoch condemned. The text predicted its own suppression, and the suppressors became proof that the prediction was accurate. There is one more parallel between the epistle of Enoch and the words of Jesus that is so direct it cannot be coincidence. In chapter 94, Enoch pronounces a blessing on the righteous that inverts every assumption the world makes about power and prosperity. In those days, blessed are all they who accept the words of wisdom and understand them, and observe the paths of the Most High, and walk in the path of his righteousness, and become not godless with the godless. For they shall be saved. 1 Enoch 99:10. Blessed are they who accept the words of wisdom. Blessed are they who walk in the path of righteousness. Blessed are they who shall be saved. Now listen to the Beatitudes of Jesus in Matthew chapter 5. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. Blessed are the meek, for they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. The form is identical, prophetic blessings pronounced on the counterintuitive recipients of divine favor. The content overlaps: righteousness, wisdom, salvation, the reversal of worldly expectations. And the context is identical. Both sets of blessings are addressed to communities of the faithful who are suffering under systems of power that do not reward goodness. Jesus stood on a hillside in Galilee and told a crowd of oppressed, impoverished, powerless people that they were blessed. Enoch, standing before his family on the last day of his earthly life, told his children the same thing. The Beatitudes did not begin on the Sermon on the Mount. They began in the Epistle of Enoch. And the tradition was old when Jesus inherited it. Now let me show you one more passage from the epistle that ties everything together. Because Enoch does not only address his family, the wicked and the righteous. He addresses one more audience, and this audience is the most surprising of all. In chapter 105, verse 1, the text says, "In those days the Lord bade them to summon and testify to the children of earth concerning their wisdom. Show it unto them, for you are their guides, and a recompense over the whole earth." You are their guides. The chosen ones who receive Enoch's books are not merely readers. They are guides. They are instructed to take what they have learned: the wisdom of the Watcher's fall, the visions of the Son of Man, the architecture of the afterlife, the timeline of the 10 weeks, the ethical instructions of the epistle, and show it to the children of earth. To testify, to become witnesses, to be, in Enoch's words, a recompense over the whole earth. This is a commission. It is Enoch's Great Commission, predating the one Jesus gave in Matthew 28 by millennia. Go, show them, testify. You are their guides. And when you realize that this commission was written into a book that the institutional church removed from your hands, the implications are staggering. The institution did not merely remove a collection of ancient stories. It removed your operating instructions. It removed the manual that told you who you are, what you are supposed to do, and why the wisdom you received was given to you in the first place. It removed your assignment. Here is what the Epistle of Enoch tells you about yourself. If you are among those who read his words, believe them, and feel something stir inside when you hear them, you are among the chosen and righteous who must be present on the day of distress. 1 Enoch 1:1. You are alive at this moment in history not by accident, but by design. You are the remote generation that Enoch was writing to. You are the audience he could not see, but was told to address. And the books, his books, the ones that were erased and then restored, were given to you to become a cause of joy and uprightness and much wisdom. You are their guides. That sentence changes everything. It transforms the book of Enoch from an academic curiosity into a personal mandate. It transforms you from a passive consumer of ancient literature into an active participant in a prophetic chain that began before the flood. And it transforms the act of sharing this knowledge, telling someone about the book of Enoch, pointing them to the epistle, showing them the instructions that were removed, from casual content sharing into obedience to a commission that is older than Abraham, older than Moses, older than any covenant recorded in the canonical Bible. The institutional church removed the manual, but the manual predicted its own removal, and it predicted its own restoration. And it predicted you, the person receiving it now, in this generation, through whatever channel brought these words to your ears. Enoch's last act before being taken was to hand his children a set of instructions and tell them, pass this forward. Do not change it. Do not diminish it. Give it to the distant generation. And when they receive it, they will know what to do. You have received it. The question now is what you do with it. If something inside you recognized itself in these words tonight, if you felt the weight of being addressed personally by a man who has been dead for 5,000 years, or who, more accurately, has never died at all, then there is someone in your life who needs to hear this. Someone who feels lost. Someone who feels like the wicked are winning. Someone who has been told that the Bible is all there is and that there is nothing more to discover. They need to know that there is a manual that was written for them, that their name was anticipated, that their generation was foreseen, and that the instructions they need were removed, but have now been restored. Share this with them. Be the guide that Enoch commissioned you to be. And if you are not yet part of this community, subscribe now and turn on the bell. Every week, we recover the scriptures they erased, the instructions they buried, and the commissions they revoked, one chapter at a time, one truth at a time, one chosen one at a time. This is the erased testament, and your manual has been delivered.